Lasso. Okay, so today is going to be our final class for the year 2022 of the grammar. And we will have our class on Wednesday, which is going to be our final class and the second revision and the final class for a basic conversation class for the year. So that would be the final class for the basic conversation class. After which we will, like I said, we will do the Dharma vocabulary class when we begin in 2023. And okay, so I've already sent the file. You can view the file in the chat for today's lesson. Now I think, yes, I think I'm already, yes, recording. So, okay, so like we already decided in the previous classes, for each class for grammar, one day I will write a dedication for Manjushri. The next class I will so one class I will dedicate to Manjushri. The other class I will dedicate to Saraswati, and I will continue doing this till the end of the Tree of Excellence speech. So each class you will have a new dedication. So today I have written this dedication to Saraswati, which is the mother of all wisdom, and definitely a Buddha. So and the female incarnate of Manjushri. So only difference is the incarnation, the representation as male and female, but in the essence, both of them are wisdom. So today I start this class with the dedication. So let me see. So I will begin this class with the dedication to Saraswati, the mother of all wisdom, the female incarnate of Manjushri, and then I dedicate this verse that I have written, though with imperfect speech, but with true dedication and definitely true reverence towards Mother Saraswati. Okay, so the verse is Peme Semo Sonya Choki Cho. Peme Semo, which means the daughter of the lotus. So here, when we have to understand that the lotus is just a symbolism. What it means is it actually means wisdom. So the one born from the wisdom. And in other case, it is also understood as the one that has originated from Manjushri's wisdom. And similarly, Manjushri, who has originated from Saraswati's wisdom. So it's vice versa. So Peme Semo, the daughter of the lotus, meaning the one born from the highest wisdom. Peme Semo Sunya Chogi Cho, who has the most beautiful and the most beautiful and the best sound, which is every single sound that comes from Saraswati. Shirab Daya Chawar Yangchen, which means the one who sings, but the ones who resonate, the ones who echoes the sound of emptiness, which is the most beautiful and the most perfect sound of wisdom. Oh, the great mother of speech. Yang Chongma, the great mother of speech. Marik Trongi Simje Tartulma. Marik means ignorance. Trong means the town. So the animal who are living in the town of ignorance, that is the samsara. Tul means to liberate them. So the mother who liberates these sentient beings who are currently residing in the town of ignorance. Yangchen Pangme Shabla Chatsalo. So the Arya mother of the Arya mother of the most beautiful sound, I prostrate to your feet. And then we have the root mantra, that is Om Arabhajanati. Okay. Now with this dedication, I bow my head to Great Arya Mother, Buddha, Mahabodhisattva, Saraswati, and I bow my head to the feet of Mother Saraswati, and then ask her blessing that our class would go on. Our class would be beneficial to every one of you. Okay, so now we begin. Okay, I think this is so. We're going to continue with the usage cases, the relations of the sixth grammatical case. Today, we're going to be done with the sixth grammatical case. So the main focus of today's lesson will be the sixth grammatical case and the usage of its particle with different relations. So we are already done with 3 relations. So now we continue with 2 more relations now. Okay, so we have the final 2, which is the characteristic bearer and characteristic relation and cause and effect relation. So before we begin, we just recite this verse once again. So that is Kiki ki yingapo namie trupa delta tang. So the 5 ki are the particles of the 6th grammatical case, the relative case. And we have 5 relations under the 6th grammatical case: the position and the object dependent on the position case, the parts and whole case, the owner and object case, characteristic bearer and characteristic case, and cause and effect case. So I'll just do a very general description about the cause and effect, nothing too detailed. I thoroughly believe that some of you who have already joined the Nalanda diploma classes and master classes have gone through these, especially during your time of learning the preliminary epistemology by Yongzin Popocho in the Yongzin Dutra, that I think that most of you have already studied it. Yes, so therefore, so since you have already taken that class, I will not go in detail about these things because you have already studied it under the Nalanda diploma class about the lower cause and, like, it's not the lower, it's the first level of cause and effect. So we call it the Gyunde Chungwa, the smaller cause and effect relation. Then we talk about the greater one in the it has a great explanation in the text of epistemology. We call it Sema Namdil, which is known as Pramana Vartika, I think. So in that text, you have greater details. So if you are studying that text, then definitely, most probably, whatever I have to tell you about these things, you already know about those things through those texts. But I will just talk very briefly about this, not in too much detail, because we will talk about this in detail when we do the great commentary by Siddha Rinpoche, in which we will also bring certain verse from the Pramana Vartika to discuss these concepts, especially the concept of generalized particles, and then relations. When it comes to relations, we will also study the relations from the first chapter of Pramana Vartika, that is of the relations between phenomena. So yeah, we will do that during our classes on the great commentary by Siddha Rinpoche, which you will enjoy, definitely enjoy. I enjoyed it very much when I studied. It was like learning the Tree of Excellence speech is like looking through a telescope or a binoculars, you know. And then going into the great commentary feels like just submerging yourself into the, for example, like the tree of excellent speech is like looking at an aquarium, but the great commentary feels like diving into the ocean. It's very vast and very well written, of course. It's one of the greatest scholars of the Tibetan, of Tibet. So definitely very wonderfully written. And therefore you'll enjoy it very much when we go through that. And also with the Mitragana or Smritigana texts, we are also going to cover those. And the thing is that right now I'm saying that, but it's going to take few years. But the thing is that this syllabus that we're following is very, very beneficial for you to study the text, as well as this is the syllable that I have chosen, especially because it is currently, when you look at grammatical system, this is the exact syllable that, not the tree of excellent speech, but from the oral instruction of Siddha Rinpoche to the great commentary up to Smritigana's text and Kavyatarsa. All of these are actually very standardized syllabus, which was established by the Institute of Higher Tibetan Studies in Varanasi. So they have. And also in the Sara, you have the Sara University in the northern India. So both of them follow quite the similar syllabus as I have checked it. So therefore, those who are aspiring to study more in Tibetan, these will be very useful for you too. So it's also useful for those who want to learn Tibetan as a language and those who want to learn Tibetan to help it as a cooperative course towards learning text. Oh, our Dharma vocabulary class, let me tell you, I'll show you how these particles play very, very important role in those. Okay, now without talking too much, let me begin the class. So these 5 are the particles of the 6th grammatical case of the relative case, and there are 6 relations in between, under this, and today we're going to study these 2, the characteristic bearer and characteristic, keshi dan kechu ikitawa, and cause and effect relations, good and debutawa. Okay, keshi dan kechu, characteristic and characteristic bearer. Kechu dan keshi nipar, delwar tumpar, nami Drubpay te jorwa. So kechu is the characteristic, keshi is the characteristic bearer. Ni means to, par means between. So showing a relation between the characteristic and characteristic bearer, and the one and the thing that shows the relation between these two is the particle of the 6th grammatical case. So we are using in particular the 6th grammatical case particle. And what do we use it to? We use it to show a relation in this particular case. What type of relation? We're trying to show the relation between a characteristic, a particular characteristic, and the characteristic bearer. So between these 2 names. So we have already established that. Okay, so something to be recognized as a 6th grammatical case, there are 2 criteria. First, it should be a type of statement that shows relation between 2 names. And the second criteria is the relation should not be shown by any particle, but the particle of the 6th grammatical case. That was the criteria for a statement to be recognized as the statement of 6th grammatical case. But now we are going to be specifying even more, because now we're not talking about just any relation. We're talking about the relation between characteristic and characteristic bearer. And so we have an additional criteria that states that it shouldn't be any type of relation. It should be a relation between a characteristic and a characteristic bearer. So we state this. So the definition is statement that shows the relation between a particular characteristic, that is one of those names, and the characteristic bearer, that is the second name. But what do we use in order to show these relations, show this relation? And it is shown by the usage of the particles of sixth grammatical case. So it's not shown by any other type of particle, but particle which are recognized as the particle of sixth grammatical case. So therefore, three criteria. First criteria, the statement should show a relation between two names. Second criteria, the relation should be shown by not any other particle, but a particle of sixth grammatical case. And the third criteria, that is, the relation should not be any arbitrary relation. It should not be any relation out of random, but a relation between that is between the characteristic and the characteristic bearer. So if a statement fulfills these three criteria, then we say this is a statement of sixth grammatical case. Okay, so the components which are necessary for these type of statement. So we always talk about components because we're trying to understand it in a formulation of syntax. Syntax, always helpful. In the beginning, very painful. But as we move on, very helpful because it forms a certain type of boundary that states that it has to be like this. This must be there. If you don't have these three, it doesn't matter how long you're writing the sentence. It's not going to be a statement, how long you're going to write a statement. It's not going to be a statement of this particular usage case. So any statement of the sixth grammatical case under the characteristic and characteristic bearer relation should consist three key components, three necessary mandatory components. The first one is keshi. Keshi is characteristic bearer. is the particles of sixth grammatical case, and kechu is the characteristic. So any particular statement, which is a statement of the relation of characteristic bearer and characteristic, must consist of the characteristic bearer, one of the name, the sixth grammatical particle of sixth grammatical case, the particle, and finally the characteristic, the second name. So these must be present there. And upon that, if you want to make the sentence sound more expressive, you want to include more element, more dynamic, you want to include more description, that is up to you. But if you don't have these three, then it doesn't matter how many other things you use to make the sentence sound more elaborate or descriptive. It's not going to be considered as the usage of the sixth grammatical case and the relation under the characteristic and characteristic bearer. So these three components should be there every time. Okay, so the example, penna, guntu ki namshi trangmo. Guntu ki namshi trangmo. Guntu ki namshi trangmo. Dir keshi guntu dang tei kechu namshi trangmo yopa ni ki parla jawa tembar namye trupe te ki tembar keshi dang kechu ki jawa ser. So the examples such as the cold weather of winter. So here we see the relation is between the characteristic bearer, that is the winter. So one of the 4 seasons, we have winter. So we can normally you can also call call it gunka, but guntu is also correct. It means during the winter or the winter time. So winter time. So it's like an it's an abbreviation of the word gunketu. So a short version of it, guntu. Instead of saying gunketu, you just say guntu. So here we see the relation is between the characteristic bearer, the winter time, and its characteristic of cold weather. So a cold weather, which is the characteristic of the winter time, is shown by the particle of sixth grammatical case. So the usage of this particle of sixth grammatical case is done in order to show the relation between the characteristic bearer and the characteristic. Here, in this particular context, the characteristic bearer, the winter, and the characteristic, that is the cold weather. And here the particle that we are using is ki. So we're using ki. So we're particularly using ki to show the relation between the characteristic bearer, guntu, and the characteristic namshi tangmo. And this type of statement in which we show the relation between the characteristic and the characteristic bearer is known as the statement of characteristic and characteristic bearer. So if you have to establish a statement as a characteristic and characteristic bearer, it must have a characteristic bearer and a characteristic, and the particle that shows the relation between them should be the particle of sixth grammatical case. And thus we establish it as a statement of characteristic and characteristic bearer under the sixth grammatical case. Okay, so example, we have example of relation of characteristic and characteristic bearer. So perju, which is example, keshi, the characteristic bearer, nami Drubpay, the particle, and finally kechu, the characteristic. Mi namchu sangpo. Mi namchu sangpo means the good intellect, the good intellectual capacity of human. So it talks about the characteristic of having a good intellectual capacity. And here the characteristic bearer is me, which is man or human. And the particle of the sixth grammatical case, which shows the relation between the characteristic bearer and the characteristic, is hakyukuyi. Me, so hakyukuyi. And the characteristic is namchu sangpo, the good intellectual capacity. Now the second example, ki haksam sangpo, the good dedication of a dog. So here we see that the characteristic bearer is ki, which is the dog. And the particle that shows the relation between this particular characteristic bearer and the characteristic is hakyukuyi. And the characteristic in this particular case is haksam sangpo, which is good dedication. So we see that in this statement, the relation between the characteristic, good dedication, and the characteristic bearer, the dog, is shown by the particle of sixth grammatical case, hakyukuyi. And we're also going to learn why hakyukuyi in these cases by understanding the rules for the usage case on the basis of the suffix letter of the name that it follows. Third, tep di sikjor sangpo, tep di sikjor sangpo, which means good. So it means that the good writings of this book. So the good writing skills that has been shown in this book. So here we see that the relation is shown between the characteristic bearer, this book, Thepdi, which is this book, and then Sikjor Sangbo, which means a good structuring of words or good writing. And the relation is shown by the particle of sixth grammatical case, hakyuko yi. So Thepdi, Sikjor Sangbo. The good writing of this book or good structuring of words of this book. So we see that in this particular case, we see that the relation is being shown between the characteristic bearer and the characteristic by the usage of the particle of sixth grammatical case. Then we have the so this is, till this point, we're done with the fourth relation of the characteristic and characteristic bearer. Now we're going to talk about the final relation, that is Yudan debut dewa, relation of cause and effect under sixth grammatical case. Namye Drubpay. Vyu khan shi dan te debu ni par dewa temper namye Drubpay te jorwa. So any statement, a statement, so gyu kanshing means any, a certain cause. Tei debu means its effect. Ni par means both of them. So between both of them. So a statement that shows the relation between a certain cause and its effect, namye Drubpay te jorwa means by the usage of the sixth particle of sixth grammatical case. So similarly, we have three criteria here. So the first criteria is that the statement should show relation between two names. So it should show a relation between two names. The second criteria is that it cannot be any arbitrary particle that shows the relation between these two names. It should be the particle of sixth grammatical case. It has to be particularly, it has to be a particle of sixth grammatical case. And then finally, the relation should be, the relation is not any relation, but it's particularly a relation between, it's a relation between two names which are considered, one is considered to be the cause and the other is considered to be its effect. So the relation is cause and effect relation. So if any statement fulfills these three criteria, first criteria, showing relation between any two names. Second criteria, the particles that shows the relation between the two names is the sixth particle of sixth grammatical case. And finally, the relation that is between these two names should be relation of cause and effect. And if any statement fulfills these three criteria, then we consider this to be a statement of cause and effect relation. Okay, so statement that shows the relation between a certain cause and its effect by the usage of particles of sixth grammatical case. Now, components which are necessary for these type of statements, components which are mandatory, necessary, is needed for these type of statement. First, you, cause. Second, the particles of sixth grammatical case. And then finally, debu, the effect. So this statement should have these three things. Like we all know, for any statement of sixth grammatical case, we needed the first name, the particle of sixth grammatical case, and the second name. But in this type of relation that is the cause and effect relation, the first name should be the cause, and the second name should be the effect of that cause. So now when we talk about cause, so the cause, so very briefly talking, a cause could be either a substantial cause or it could be a cooperative cause. So it could be a cause that becomes the effect, like in the case of the seed growing into, for example, let's say a seed that grows into an apple tree. We see that in these type of cases, the very seed transforms itself into the apple tree, right? So we have that type of cause which transforms or changes its own form into the cause. So some type of things that changes itself in order to give out the effect or the product. And then there are these cooperative causes, which does not change itself to give out the product, but they are still a factorial. Sometimes I refer to them as factors. So these causes are factorial causes. And so factor causes, sorry, not factorial, factor causes or cooperative causes. For example, when the seed grows into the tree, apple tree, it requires labor sometimes. So in certain cases, it requires labor. So a person does the work. The person doesn't transform or becomes the tree, but the effort that the person has given to growing the seed is there. So those type of causes are known as the cooperative causes, which do not directly change itself into the product, right? So let's see. So therefore, we have these type of causes. So very brief explanation on this. And then, so we understand that these are the cause. And then last time we also understood that be it the benefit or be it the harm, it could be done directly or indirect. So the direct cause and indirect cause is also there. Something that directly affects for something to happen, or something that indirectly causes something which causes that to happen. Right? So we're not going to talk about the intentions and all, which makes it even more complicated when we think about it. So this is just a very brief and surface explanation on cause and effect. And if you are more interested, definitely you can always ask me the questions. You can ask me questions and then I will try to clarify those things for you. But for as far as the class goes, this amount of explanation seems valid and proper and sufficient. Okay, so cause, particle of 6 grammatical case, and the effect. Perna, digbe tungachung. Dikar, kyu mike digbe le chepar, and bu tunga ni par, and jawat parnami trupe sikte hakibu yi. And tela gyundre gindrawasis. So in this case, which is the relation between the cause and effect under the 6th grammatical case, we see that, for example, so let me just add H here. So there is a reason why I haven't translated Dunga into suffering. It's because Dunga is more wide and vast in the concept. So the most proper translation seems to be from its original text that states dukkha So therefore, I have just translated it as dukkha and not suffering. So definitely, this is my personal preference. Some may not accept. Yes, lasso. So some may not accept this very personal preference here, but for me, I have understood that. So when we say suffering, we only like, it could be me, you see, but it gives an idea that it has to do with pain, right? And it could be both physical and mental pain. But then that very word doesn't tell us the essential understanding of suffering, of dukkha or dunga, which talks about the impermanent nature of things, which brings out the very effect. So therefore, when we say suffering, it's not very apparent, which is the word impermanence. But both the word dukkha and dunga, when we say it, it has the concept of impermanence quite attached to it by the nature of the people who are using this language, as well as the very term that has been used. So when we say dunga, it doesn't mean pain. It doesn't mean just the misery. It goes more towards understanding of the progression towards the pain by its causes. So it doesn't only talk about the effect, that is the pain or suffering. It also talks about the progression towards that pain and suffering through the nature of things being impermanent. And then the ignorance, of course. So this is something that is a personal preference. But in any case, you can also translate as suffering. And there are many who accept this translation. So, Drubpay dongal chung. So, dukkha from non-virtue. Dikar here, gyu mige Drubpay le cheper. The cause of dukkha, the effect is, so the cause of the, so the effect, the cause of dukkha, which has the effect. So the dukkha is the effect. So the cause of dukkha is the non-virtuous action, and the relation of, so relation between, let me just, relation between these two. So the relation of cause, which is the non-virtue, and the effect, which is the dukkha, is shown by the usage of the particle of sixth grammatical case hakyukuyi. So we see that the particle of sixth grammatical case, which is hakyukuyi, shows the relation between the cause or the effect or the product, which is dukkha, and its cause, which is the non-virtue. And therefore, thus this type of statement is understood, or this type of statement is known as the statement of relation of cause and effect. So let me just highlight this to make it look much more, make it much easier to recognize. So this particle, this particular particle, hakyuguyi, which is the particle of sixth grammatical case, shows the relation between the cause, dikpa or non-virtue, and the effect, dungal, which is the dukkha. So therefore, the relation between the cause and effect. Okay, now here we have so example of relation of cause and effect under the sixth grammatical case. Namya Drubpay. Example, cause. Nami the particle of sixth grammatical case, and debu, the product or the effect. So first sentence, pai homa. Pa, which is the cow, homa is the milk. And since the cow is the cause of the milk, so the place where you get the milk, so the relation between this cause and effect is shown by the particle yakyugu yi. The second example, shingi kangba, the house of wood or the wooden house. So we see that this house, the cause of this house, meaning the cause, the thing that was used to make this house was the wood. And the final product is the wooden house, the house. So shingi kangba, and the particle that shows relation between this shing, which is wood, and kangba, which is the house, is the particle of sixth grammatical case, kakyugu ki. Finally, shopu metok, flower of a paper flower. So a paper flower. So we see that this flower is made of, or the cause of this flower is the paper. You use the paper, you fold it in a certain way, and then you make it look like a paper, a flower. Definitely, the paper itself doesn't become the flower. It needs a cooperative cause here, which in this case is inferential and not shown directly. So it could be a person who's making. So for example, we have these different things, like for example, the origami, with which you make different things using those colorful paper. So very wonderful things you can make from those things. So you see that those are made from paper, and the very material, that is the paper, does not manifest itself into those things. It requires a person to work on it. So the person and their labor becomes the cooperative cause in here at this very moment. Whereas the cause for the flower to become the cause that actually transform itself into being the paper flower is the paper. And so the cause is paper. Hakyugu yi is the particle of sixth grammatical case, and meto, the flower, is the product. So to this point, we are done with all of the relation. We had 5 relation. First, the position and object dependent on position case. The second one is the parts and whole relationship. And the third one is owner and object. The fourth one is characteristic bearer and characteristic, and then final is cause and effect. So these are the different relation under the sixth grammatical case. So these are the 5 relation. And now that we're done with the usage case of the sixth grammatical case, now it's time to understand the since we already know that the sixth grammatical case, or the ide, the particle possessing the first vowel e, is not an independent particle. It is a dependent particle. Te means particle, shewang means dependent on others. So te dependent particles. And since it is dependent particles, we know that there are 2 rules for its usage. Tunjor, usage case based on the nature of statement. Dajor, usage case of the particle on the basis of the suffix letter. So now we're going to talk about the dajor. Lekshe jawale, jorsu nama rala ki, tabasa ki kanga ki, hadan tame ida yi. So from Tree of Excellent Speech, the usage with name is thus: for nama rala, use kayata kekyugu ki. For tapasa, use kayata kekyugu ki. For kanga, use kaya the kekyuguki. And for hadan tame, use hakyuguyi and yakyuguyi. So this is the usage case based on the suffix letters. So here, there's only, so we have all the 10 suffix letter, and on the addition, we have the case where certain name may not have any suffix letter. So, jotu namarala ki, tabasa ki, kanga ki, hadantame, idayi. The usage with name is thus. For namarala, with all of these are suffix. So namarala are suffix in this case. So for namarala, use kayata kekyukuki. For tapasa, these three are also suffix. Use kayata kekyukuki. For kanga, these both are also suffix. Use. Very sorry, I have made a mistake here. Addition of this, it's simply kakyukuki, and we don't need this. Okay, so for kanga, we use kakyukuki, and then for hadan tame, ha being the suffix, and tame, we already discussed that tame means any word that doesn't, any name that doesn't have the suffix letter, you use hakyuguyi or yakyuguyi. So this is also a verse from the Tree of Excellent Speech that most of you, so probably every one of you, are memorizing each day. So this is the part of that text. The usage with name is thus. For namarala, suffix kayate kekyuki, habasa suffix kayate kekyuki, kanga suffix kakyuki, ha suffix hakyugi, yakyugi, and without suffix hakyugi, yakyugi. And you know that we have already discussed that when it comes to hakyugi, it only works when you don't write the punctuation between the name and the particle. If you write the punctuation tsek, which is the dot here, you see it here, right? This punctuation, then you no longer use hakyugi. You can use yakyugi. Only for this case. So here we have the table in which I have written for each and every one of those cases. So perje example, jinju da yangju, okay, so I have just written the word itself. So let me just correct this. Okay. Okay, so.
Скажите, а что за тамеринга дринк?
So we see that we have these examples with the with each of these suffix. So I have to add one more. So I'll just do it afterwards. So yakki. So here we see the word yak has a suffix letter ka. So it follows. So the particle that follows it is kakikuki. Then we have the word kang or kang. Sorry, kang, and then we have the suffix letter nga, which is followed by kakikuki. Then we have sakatakatake, where we have the suffix letter ta. It is followed by the particle kayate kakyukuki. Then we have the word samatamana men, which has the suffix letter na, and is followed by kayate kakyukuki. Then we have the word tapatap, which has the suffix letter pa, followed by kayate kakyukuki. Then we have the word kon namanam, followed by the particle kayate kekyuki, because it has the suffix letter ma. Then now we have the suffix letter ha. Two examples. The first one, te, when we don't write the punctuation. And since we don't write the punctuation, it becomes tahi. And without the punctuation, it doesn't make any sense. So we just combine the two ha, and then we just write one in place of the both. And then tahi, where we have the ha as the suffix letter, and this time we have the punctuation, so yakyuguyi. Then kar ki. The word kar has ra as suffix, so it is followed by kayate ki. Gel ki. The word gel has the suffix letter la, so followed by kayate ki. Se ki. The word se has the suffix letter sa, so followed by kayate ki. So just by looking at this table and reciting this verse, you will be able to remember the usage on the basis of suffix letter. Okay, now I have to add one more, which is going to be the tamit. So tamit, which means it doesn't have any suffix letter. So it's followed by hakyuguyi and yakyuguyi. So this is the case. The reason why I didn't put hakyuguyi over here is it has to do more with the more with the rules pertaining the masculine and feminine sound, and we're going to discuss this in another text of the gender signs. But there it will be clarified. Like, it seems very, I have said that in one case, I've said that you can use yakyuguyi and hakyuguyi, and the only thing that dictates this rule, or only thing that is telling you this rule, has to do with differentiates the usage of both of this is to do with the punctuation. But now you have other question. You can say like, oh, wait a minute, you just said this, and now what you have done is that you have only written sai, you haven't written se. Why is that? And then the reason has to do with the sounds of ha and sa. So ha and sa are particularly not compatible sound in many cases when they come as when both of them come as the foundation of name. Definitely, if ha comes as the suffix letter, then that's a different case. But here, when we say sai, we see that sa is a foundation of name because it comes by itself, so it's the foundation of name. And then hakyuguyi, in that case, ha has the kigu, so this is also the foundation of name. So we see that there are two foundation of name in this case, and both of them are not compatible. And this has to do with the rules of the spelling of foundation of names, like what type of foundation of names can follow what type of foundation of names. And since that is not compatible by that, we don't use se, we only use sai. So that is the reason why I haven't used hakyuguyi here. And I will clarify this more in the text of gender sign, because this has to do with gender signs. So we don't want to mix it right now. Definitely, when we study the other commentary by Siddha Rinpoche, definitely we can interchangeably use the rules here, because by then we are already done with both of these commentary. And that is the reason why it is very, very easy to use in those contexts. Okay, so this is the usage case on the basis of the suffix letter. Lasso. So this is and with this, we're completely done with the 6th grammatical case. We're finished with the 6th grammatical case. Okay, now, does anyone have questions regarding today's lesson? If you have questions, I will answer those questions. If you're done with, once we're done with questions, then I'll ask someone to recite the text, and then we most auspiciously finish our courses, our portion of the course for the year 2022. Where is it? The question. In the statement, components needs to be expressed in the or implicit, or the very component is also possible that. So in any statement, these components are the very statement. So we must understand that whatever these components are the statement itself. So anything addition is an addition. So when I say necessary component, what I mean by that in other way is to say that these are the things that makes the statement, that there is no statement without these. So therefore, the combination of these three components makes up the sentence, and without these, there is no statement of any of these relation under the sixth grammatical case. But it doesn't mean that a statement which is of this particular type will only be with only these components. No, you can add other elements to this. Like I said, it is they can be more dynamics to the sentence. But because it brings more dynamic to the sentence or more detail to the sentence, sorry, not sentence, statement. We're going to stick to statement because it brings out this kind of different statement. Because it brings out the dynamics in certain statement, doesn't mean that those are actually mandatory or important for that statement to be. But definitely they give out a different meaning to the statement. So in that way, we can say that these are the very three components are the very statement. The combination, at least, is the very statement. Okay, so I hope it is cleared. Any other questions? Do we have one more question? Do we have one more question? If you have questions, you can ask directly. Yes, so we keep it as dukkha, not translated. We just keep it as dukkha. So, like I said, some people prefer it to be translated as suffering. So that's their personal preference. But yes, definitely you can adopt the word dukkha in your vocabulary as a dunga. And definitely, if you study the very word, you'll understand that it also shows the similar type of elements that has to do with the impermanence and everything. Very vast concept, this thing called dunga. It does not only talk about the miserable part of it being, it also talks about the progression towards that misery. Okay, so any other questions? Do we have any other questions?
I have a question, Tanzila.
So,
is there a correlation between the 5 relations that we have we talked about for this 6th grammatical case?
So, yes, continue, please.
Like they all look kind of similar with very, very little difference in between them, like what you call character and characteristic bearer, and then cause and effect, and like owner and the
yes,
so is there something like, yeah, I was trying to understand.
Yes, so the thing is that definitely the difference between these are like when we try to understand the statement in a very general term, then the differences are very subtle. Most of the time it could feel like, oh, the characteristic and characteristic bearer, these could be also understood as the one, the quality and the one that possesses the quality, right? So why shouldn't it be understood as the owner and object relation? True, you can also look at in that way in a general term, but here we are trying to be very specific. So the more specific we're trying to be, the more we will emphasize on the subtle differences. So here we're not looking at through the perspective of characteristic, when we're saying like things like 这是个康巴, we're not looking at as a perspective of tashi and house being in the relation of position and the object dependent position kind of relation. We're not looking at as the only perspective we have at that moment is of the owner and the object. That's it. And therefore, the idea of owner and object is the most generalized understanding of the sixth grammatical case. Whenever we talk about the sixth grammatical case, most of the people just understand it as the owner and object relation. So therefore, you might feel that all of them seems very similar in the context of possessing and the one possessing it, you know, the possessed object and the one that is possessing it. But in reality, when we look at through the different perspective, then we understand the subtle differences between each of these. So therefore, we will understand it as those different relations in those particular aspect. Yes, so like for example, the statement that we use that is "Homa," that means the milk of cow. In one aspect, we can say that the cow belongs to the the milk belongs to the cow, right? So in that case, we can say that this is like a owner and possession relation. But in other case, we can also understand it as not that, but we can understand it as, no, this is not that. Here we are talking about two names which are particularly in the aspect of owner, aspect of the cause and the effect, meaning the one that is producing and the one that is produced. So different perspective. So very subtle differences, definitely very subtle differences. And normally, when we don't go in depth about these usage cases in these relations, most of the time when we talk about the sixth grammatical case, most of the people will just assume it to be the possession and object of possession relation. So I hope it clarifies it.
Yes. And also I noticed that like most of the time the words that like the particle that we use in English is coming like off and from. So would it be like a correct understanding if I say wherever I use off in English, I can use this particle?
So like I said in the beginning of this course that of the Tree of Excellent Speech, we don't do that. It's very problematic. I said that the particles don't fix any meaning. Just look at the sentence statement and then see in which context it is being used. And then in accordance, you just understand them in English. So most of the statement that we have given might have this type of usage, but then there could be statements where it could mean completely different too. Really?
Like?
Let me think.
It's okay. Maybe later.
I'm thinking. I'm thinking, but not coming at the moment.
No problem.
I'm very sorry. It's not coming at the moment.
I
But
think, yeah.
whenever it comes, I will write it in the group.
Yeah,
because,
sure. And
currently, I think that's everything that I'm thinking is either possessing and possessed. So no, not at all. Nothing is coming. Sorry.
No problem. I get the point.
Yes. So therefore, the thing is that definitely in some of these contexts, we get this idea that it could be translated in this way, right? But yeah, in certain contexts, it just doesn't work. And currently, I don't have anything to support this, but I will support this, definitely. So it was like a sudden question, and then it isn't coming. I'm trying to bring it, but it's not coming. Like, those things that when you try to remember, it just doesn't want to come. So we'll just leave it, at this point to that. And then later I will try to provide an example for those cases, because this is actually a very important statement that we don't give a particular fixed meaning to a particle. But yes, I will support it later with more arguments and more examples. So currently, not possible, not coming. It's not coming. I'm trying, but not coming. So, Lasso, and any more questions? Does anyone have more questions related to the sixth grammatical case or today's class, or the sixth grammatical case in general? So, just when I thought that it wasn't going to come, something just came. So I'll just write it here because it's an example. So in this statement where we see that Tashi kini chawache, it means that Tashi did the work, or Tashi did the work. So here we see that the work was, so here what E does is that it acts as a particle that emphasizes on the fact that affirms that the job was done by Tashi. So it is used as an emphasis particle with ni. So Tashi kini chawache, which means Tashi did that action, or Tashi did that work. So Tashi, why Tashi? Yes, Tashi. Okay, Tashi did that work. So here we see that Tashi did that work is an example where the particle ki is used, but it's used to emphasize the fact that Tashi did that work. But here we see that it is not translated as of or for, but in this case, actually, it's just used in order to have an effect that emphasizes the usage. Emphasizes that the work was done by Tashi. So Tashi kini chawache, but we don't see that this is being translated. So I think this is an example where it is used as an, I think this clarifies it, that it is an example where we used to clarify, where we used to emphasize, but it's not translated in that way. But for the five usage things that we did, the 5 usage, definitely all of those 5 usage, these translates to for or of, definitely, but not in all the usage case, like the one that I just provided. I was almost going to say like I was almost thinking it's not going to come. And when I repeated it 2 times, 3 times, it just came. So this is the example for when it cannot be used as of or for, but it does the emphasis. So I hope that this clarifies it.
But this emphasis will come under which of the 5 cases?
None of the 5 cases. This is another usage of the 6th particle, which we did not discuss. But this, which we will discuss later, it's the emphasis case of the 6th grammatical particle.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So I hope that this clarifies it.
Yes.
Okay. So today it seems that we were able to save our nose. So wonderfully done. Okay, any questions? Any more questions? Any more questions regarding 6th grammatical case in general or today's class? Anything I will answer. So after today, we won't have any discussions regarding this, and like we won't have class till what was the date that it was said? It was something in the January, I think 10th of January, till the 10th of January, we won't have any classes. So therefore, if you have any questions, now is the most wonderful time to ask those questions. So if no questions, then who would like to read today to end this entire? I think so in total with this we have almost 21 classes till this point. So we have 2 classes each week, so probably 2 or 2.5 months of class, and then we're going to end it with the most auspicious. So we started with our dedication to Mother Saraswati, and it's wonderful that we're ending with dedication to Mother Saraswati. And who would like to end it? So who would like to end it with the most auspiciousness for today's class by reciting? You may or may not have memorized it. These 3 weeks, please take time to memorize it. This is my most humble request to every one of you. And I know that you also have to prepare for the exams that I'm going to give you. But with that also, if you could, please prepare for the exams. So who's going to read it? You can read it by looking at the text, actually. So you have the text in the classroom, the class chat. You can also, you can read it in the class. You can read it from the text from the class. I mean, after that, I'll read the entire text myself, just for the auspiciousness. But before that, who wants to read till that point? Till the portion that we have already discussed. So. No one? No one's going to read? I can today, sorry, you can invoice tutors. Okay, in the yes, of course. So who would like to read it? I think someone could read it. I mean, I know everyone has the text, right? Is there anyone who doesn't have the text? So everyone has the text, right? So if everyone has the text, then do we have anyone who wants to read? I mean, definitely, Divya, you can read it with the text, and you know that this is an atmosphere of learning. Everyone is learning, so please don't worry about anything. So if you would like to read and complete the auspiciousness, then you're more than welcome to read it.
Okay, thanks a lot. Maybe I'll try. But
Thank
maybe
you.
just forgive me for the mistakes that I'm going to do. Sumchu pe ningpo likshe jompe wampo je chawa shutso Yangchen Drubpay Dorje je Namo Guru Manju Khoshaya Lama Choda Yame Pe Zampe Yangla Kutu ne Thomi Lekshe Sumchu Pe Ningpo Thodu Shepherd Cha Yanki Jawa Sarpu Re Jepa Iu Eo Shi Salche Kasok Sumchu Yin Ghanga Dhana Bhama Ha Rala Sanam Jenjuk Chu Dhadhang Sani Yanjuk Te Dhani Nara La Sumdhang Sani Ghanga Bha Mar Thop Dhadha Bhama Bhomo Te
Yes.
Check that do Drumpa Thang Dheni Che Kap Namla Chuk Sasu Gha Bha Tha Tu Nga Dha Nama Rala Tu Hadhang Thame Radhang Ru Ghiki Ghihi Yi Nga Po Namche Dupa Tha Dhang Denam Sadha Chenga Ni Nam Ye Sumpa Jeta Te.
That's so very wonderful. Okay. So thank you very much. So with this, so we have most auspiciously completed our almost 3 months of the portion of Tree of Excellent Speech, and we're done with the first of the two particles used, particles possessing E. So it may seem that we have so many particles still left because we're only done with some, but the thing is that these are like the ladhe and the ide are the ones which have so many usage cases. So it took us quite a lot of time, but we will make sure that by the end of 2023, we're done with this text, or most probably before that, if it's possible. Okay, so I will recite the text, the entire text, so that definitely most wonderfully read. Thank you very much. So I will read the entire text to establish the auspiciousness and the continuum of the course to the year 2023. Now, to state that by reading this text once again, I'm reminding every one of you that we're still not done with this text, that we still have to go continue going with this text. So take it as an auspicious sign. So Lekshe Drubpay Wangbu Nguju Yangchen Drubpay Dorje Pe Zeba Shusu Namo Guru Manju Koshaya Lama Choda Yeme Pichambe Yang Kutun Tumi like Shisum Jube Yingbo to Dushe Bacha Yangi Chawa Silbor Cheba Yu Yoshi Sejaka Susumju Kangatana Pama Relasanam Jinju Tata Sani Yanju the Tani Naralasan the Sani Kangapama to Katapama Anju Kongotono Pomo Roloso to Ladu de Zosita Duche and Chatayo to the Tami of Shenam Techituncha Sura Rotunala to Laduna Batuin the Namini Shitambata Tenitsa Namachu Kabata to Matana Marada to Vata Tamer rather than Kiki in a bonami reported that the tenants of the channel in a miss, but Cherata Jojo Namara like Tabasaki Kanaki at the Tami, the Gan, singing the Katabasata, Kanama, Latari at the Tami on the Tete Naji and Narla Sata, the Tatagan Pama, Taminam Sati to count on Pomom. Ramasam Chitty Chotu, the Duke of the Sonra Rui, I know Gambami Gong, one count to meta petition. Nelachung got to the Chungungal Chang, Hanjab to the Tunkan meetings, during the Rapona to get a guy, but the Pejaming Tomac, Ninikata Nemet, Tani to Chicken, the Second Tamangalcho, Mingitometer and Tanya Tamata, and Transhin, which is on Chita, Shitella Chel, Genius, Chikel, Chison, Consankilo, Nari, Mapa, Tabata, the Karana Pomas and Tataba, Maral Tameta, if you were in a Chelopanicho, and the Pam Petra, Manning and make up the zone, Mammy, Kata, the Mametum, Major Arki said that situation to one other ultimate Shinshi Ocean Shikaraban Tar Shinji Ocean Chikat Sata Missishamoto Shinshi Ocean to Yakachi saying, thank you so Mingichan Banachikamo Pilata, get good to Chelapan with a Tendi, Chelatanium, so Sija Kata Shisha. So Sitajan Novata, Sija Kanta Nishi top. Tangismo Sovata, Lewson Shizzy, I Matishi, but Singleton Shizzy, Sigal Lome Matishi, thank you to use our relationship, but Yangchen Drubpay Dorje. So this is the completion. So relationship with Yangchen Drubpay Dorje Pilki. Zeba also. So complete. So completion of this text. So very wonderful. So thank you very much for joining me and standing with me for so on Thursday we will have the class for basic. So no class on Saturday, no class on Wednesday, only one class on Thursday. That's it. And that would be the last, that would be the second revision class for the basic conversation class. After that, on the 18th, I will post the link to the exams in the group so that you can join it. And then you have 1 month's time to complete the exams. So you can do it in in that time. So thank you very much for joining in and continuing this course till this long. And yes, we have class on Thursday. Only on Thursday. No class after Thursday. So class Thursday would be the last class. So today is the 12th. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So 15th, we'll have class on 15th. So that would be the only class that we will have. After that, we will call it a break for the year 2022. Okay, so just for the sake of auspiciousness, what I'll do is I'll just recite 1 or 2 lines, 1 or 2 verses from the 30 itself, and then we will call it. So yes, I will not provide the next portion. So the break will be break, nothing, just revise, and then please revise the course that has been done till this point for grammar, and then spend that time to reevaluate everything for the for the exams. So no more memorization till the 10th of January. Okay, so so this is not. So I will recite 1 or 2 lines, 1 or 2 verses from the 30 itself, just as a sign of auspiciousness. Okay, so sumju bashoso kyakar ketu vyakarana mulatimsha namaha pheketu nungtemba so sumju bashe chawa ngaki wonchu chambe yang cha chelo. So this is the verse that is the pledge, which is the verse of worship. Kangi yunden chongawe unjo tela cha chelos. So first dedication to the 3 gem. Kangi Dayang Kunsongwe, Jambeyang La Chatselo, second dedication to the Manjushri. Kangi Mishi, Ngunsongpa, Toshi Wala Chatselo, third dedication to Dak Shiva or Mahadeva Shiva. And then Devjo Legze Kenamta, Lama Layan Chatsene. So dedication to all the scholars and the lamas of the lineage. So Laba Gungi Shizinji, Riche Mawanam Kikyu. So it states the treasure of all the scholars and the foundation of all the three fundamental practice. So this is what I have been saying again and again. This text, not only for language, this text, the fundamental to understand Buddhism. So therefore, Yigi Jowa Shebacha, Mingsi Joba Kungishi Yigi Jowa Shebacha. So this is where so the foundation of all statements, I shall state it here, the rules of the name, the words, and the statement. Okay, so this is the portion that I read as a form of auspiciousness. So may, by the blessings of all of our gurus and the great teachers, Bodhisattva Buddhas, and the Manjushri Saraswati, may we be able to continue this class in the next year of 2023 without any sort of obstructions or any sort of obstacles. May all of us be able to sit here and continue learning from each other as we did this year. Again, last year, all of you who are learning the fundamentals of Tibetan from me, I'm learning how to teach what I have learned and also being able to deeply analyze what I have learned by this practice that you have so compassionately given me the opportunity of. So I thank every one of you for providing this opportunity of teaching every one of you and providing what little knowledge that by the blessing of my guru that I have achieved. And so may the next year that comes for every one of us, may all of us be able to sit again and learn from each other in the most profound way as we have done. And then during the break, it doesn't mean that just because it's break, you cannot ask me questions. I'm always available for questions. I will answer those questions. Sometimes not directly, because I will be for almost 10 days, I will be in Bodh Gaya for the so it will be like for two purposes. One will be for the teaching, other would be for pilgrimage. So for 10 days, I will be in Bodh Gaya, so I may not be very active during those times. Other than that, I will be very active, and you can ask me questions whenever you have. Okay, now that we have completed our course, let me just do the final dedication, and then we'll call it a day. Okay, so I apologize to all the mother sentient beings for my imperfect speech, though I have great arrogance of whatever I have learned to call mine. But everything is just a blessing of the great Guru, who is most compassionate, who have given me a portion of what he or she or they possess. And by the brilliance of that teaching, I'm able to give what I have to all of you, and through very imperfect speech, which I apologize to mother sentient beings and all of you. And I apologize to all the sentient beings for the delay of attaining the enlightenment because of my ignorance, my impressions. So by the blessing of all of you, mother sentient beings, and all of you students, may I be able to attain enlightenment as soon as possible and be able to give that knowledge to every one of you. So thank you very much for joining in today, and Tashitele, and then I will see every one of you for the revision class on Thursday. And please memorize to the portion that was already given. the texts are very important. You're going to thank me later that you had memorized the text, because then your entire life, until you have this thing memorized, you'll have the entire 30 with you. It will always be with you. So thank you, definitely. Thank you for the wishes, and then I'll see you on Thursday. And this is it for today. Please study, revise, memorize whenever you can, and then ask me questions. I always appreciate the questions. I always welcome the questions. And this is it for today. Tashitele, and thank you very much. And Sarvotam Mangalam. Lasso.